June 26, 1996, the Euro semifinals. It goes to a penalty shootout. Gareth Southgate steps up to the spot, and the keeper, Andreas Kupke, reads him perfectly, making the save. Germany heads to the final. Fast forward 22 years, and that same Southgate is now the England manager. At the 2018 World Cup, his squad finally breaks the curse, winning a penalty shootout against Colombia. It was their first shootout victory in 28 years. This could have been a beautiful story about a man overcoming his own trauma and passing that resilience on to his team. Except just 3 years later, the Euro 2020 final against Italy. Back at Wembley. Back to a penalty shootout. Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, and Bukayo Saka, 3 young players Southgate sent out to take the heat from the spot. All 3 missed. Italy became the champions of Europe. 7 penalty shootout defeats at major tournaments between 1990 and 2024, more than any other European national team. July 1966, the World Cup final, 4-2 after extra time. Bobby Charlton, Jeff Hurst with a hat trick, Gordon Banks in goal. England are world champions. For the first and last time in history, the country that invented football had finally won its own game. And then it froze. Because winning a World Cup on home soil is a special kind of experience. It does something weird to people's heads. It creates this illusion that the victory is earned forever. That being champions isn't something you have to prove every 4 years, but more like a permanent title. Glenn Hoddle, one of the best English players of that generation who later managed the national team, put it perfectly. We took a step back and started admiring ourselves, and we stopped. While England was busy self-admiring, the rest of the world kept moving forward. The Netherlands were inventing total football. Brazil was exporting geniuses. Germany was building systematic discipline. France was opening Clairefontaine, the National Youth Academy that would later churn out the 1998 World Cup champions. Meanwhile, England was staring at the Premier League, the richest, most spectacular, most expensive league in the world. And they failed to notice that this very league was killing the national team. Here's the paradox that few people actually see. The Premier League is simultaneously the best and the worst thing to ever happen to English football. The best, because it brought in billions, the top managers on the planet, and the finest players from 50 different countries. The worst, because that's exactly why English players are left with almost no room. In the 2024-2025 season, around 67% of the players in the Premier League were foreign. This means that a young English footballer at 18 or 20 years old simply doesn't get game time at the proper level because his position is taken by an experienced Brazilian or German who cost the club $50 million. The result? England heads into a major tournament with a squad of talented players who lack real, high-stakes match experience. Bellingham is an exception. Saka is an exception. Most of them are not. The English FA finally realized this right around the disaster of the 2010 World Cup, when Germany trashed England 4-1 in the round of 16, making it painfully clear that just having big names in the lineup wasn't cutting it. In 2012, St. George's Park opened its doors, a national football center spanning 330 acres in Staffordshire, costing an investment of over £100 million. The blueprint was that very same Clairefontaine that had turned things around for France. All 28 England national teams across different age groups, from the senior squad down to the youth setups, moved in there. At the same time, the Premier League introduced the Elite Player Performance Plan, an academy development system adopted in 2012. Clubs were given strict guidelines regarding training hours, coaching methods, and qualifications. Investments in academies skyrocketed. Out of the 26 players Southgate brought to Euro 2024, 19 of them had come up through the system. The results followed almost instantly. England won the Under-20 World Cup in 2017, then the Under-21 Euro. Then the senior squad made it to the Euro finals, twice in a row. But they keep losing those finals. And this is where the most uncomfortable part of the conversation begins. Because the reforms are working, but they can't fix what lies outside of academies and training methods. They can't fix the culture. English football culture is built on a few things that, when it comes to crunch time, actually work against the team. First up, the press. Nowhere else in the world is there this kind of pressure on a national team like in England. Press conferences before every single match, personal attacks on players after every mistake, and headlines shouting, "Shame," after every loss. Players grow up in this environment, and by the time they reach a major tournament, their nervous systems are already fried, even before kickoff in the first game. Jürgen Silger, a German sports psychologist who worked with several European national teams, studied the English media leading up to Euro 2020. He described them as an anxiety creation engine built around a team that desperately needs confidence. Second, penalties as a psychological phenomenon. After 1996, Southgate made penalty practice a core part of training. Players would take shots under conditions that mimicked real matches as closely as possible, complete with crowd noise, pressure, and fans. This paid off in 2018 against Colombia, but in the Euro 2020 final, Southgate sent Rashford, Sancho, and Saka to the spot. 3 players who weren't just secondary penalty takers, but who had barely taken any penalties for their clubs all season. Why he did it remains a mystery to this day. Southgate himself explained the choice as seeing who looked ready, but the stats said otherwise. Third, and this is the most important part, the complete lack of tactical flexibility in crunch time. In the Euro 2024 final, Spain adapted their tactical setup twice during the game. Their manager, Luis de la Fuente, made substitutions that reshaped the entire team structure, and Oyarzabal scored the winning goal precisely because Spain adapted, while England didn't. This isn't about player quality. It's about a manager and a team being able to think in real time. Southgate built England into a highly organized, defensive team with quick transitions. That approach works for getting out of the group stage and grinding it out against evenly matched opponents. It doesn't work when you're facing the best team in the tournament and they've had plenty of time to figure out your system. So, what has actually changed over these 60 years? And what has stayed exactly the same? What changed? The youth development system, it's genuinely better. The squad depth, it's deeper than ever before. Penalties, they practice them now. The managers, they're way more tactically astute. What hasn't changed? The toxic culture of media pressure, the inability to adapt during a match at the highest level, and most importantly, the psychology of a final. Because a final isn't about the system or the preparation, it's about whether you truly believe you deserve to win. Bellingham, Saka, and Kane belong to a generation that grew up with a completely different mindset, free from the weight of 7 decades of failure. And right now, at the 2026 World Cup, they have the chance to prove it. July 6th, the round of 16 clash against Mexico on their own turf, in a country that's co-hosting the tournament. The pressure from the stands is going to be insane. This is exactly the kind of match where everything we've talked about gets put to the test. The psychology, the resilience under pressure, and tactical flexibility when it matters most. By the way, Palmer and Foden didn't make the squad. Tuchel made some brutal calls based on their form this season. That in itself shows just how much English football has changed. It used to be that big names mattered more than form, but not anymore. The system is in place. The players are better prepared than ever. The only question left is whether this team has what previous generations lacked. The absolute conviction that they deserve to win, rather than just the hope that they won't lose. What do you think? Is this England squad finally the real deal? Or will they find another way to blow it? Let me know in the comments.